Good evening, everyone. I'm City Administrator Greg Elliott, and I'd like to address a few things before the mayor requests a roll call. This is the pre-meeting, which is a forum for the City Commission to discuss various issues and topics. For much of the meeting, we ask that participants mute themselves to allow the commissioners to have their discussions and to minimize any background noise that may be disruptive. An opportunity for public comment will be provided at the end of the meeting, and participants will be invited at that time to unmute and address the commission if they wish. Talked in the past about Zoom bombing. This is where a virtual meeting is interrupted by people who fill the screen with objectionable content. This occurs during our meeting tonight. We will disconnect the meeting and restart after a few minutes. Attendees can reconnect via the same link. We will also turn over the video of the meeting to law enforcement for investigation. Thank you all for participating, and Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for the roll call.
Robin, roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
all commission members present.
At this time, I'll turn it back over to you, Greg, to go over your items, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item we have for discussion tonight is about parklets. Parklets were an idea that were brought to the Downtown Development Authority at their meeting last month, and they assigned a committee to study the idea, and that committee has moved forward and developed some proposals for doing sort of a demonstration project this year. If you don't know, parklets are sort of an extension of the sidewalk into a parking space to provide additional outdoor living area in a downtown setting. Jerry Ryder is here from the DDA and from the Croswell, who has been heading up that committee. There's a larger committee that did outreach to some of the downtown businesses, and then a smaller group of which I was a part that discussed the design of the proposed parklets. And so she's prepared a brief PowerPoint for you. And at this point, I'll turn the meeting over to Jerry to go through that.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Michelle for helping me get the PowerPoint in everybody's hands, commissioner's hands. So yes, as Greg indicated, idea came from a citizen to talk about having parklets in downtown Adrian. So on the next slide is just a little bit of information about what exactly is a parklet. So in the case of downtown Adrian, what we're talking about is an extension directly from the sidewalk into parking places. This would be at the same height as the sidewalk, so it would cover the curb and be handicap accessible. And it just allows for an extension of seating. It's just an attractive way to provide space for people to be in your downtown. So if you want to go to the next slide, Michelle, thank you. So why would we add parklets to Adrian? It's a great way to support business in downtown. Right now we are living where restaurants have a limited capacity. So takeout being a preferred option that may last, we're not sure how long. This parklets would enable people to have spaces to sit outside of restaurants, as well as when they're just taking a break in downtown, if they're walking around, participating in the Dara, or as food trucks become a thing in our downtown. It's just a space to gather when it's safe to gather, or take the people that you spend time with safely and have a space to sit in that's outside and where you can enjoy all that downtown Adrian has to offer. There's several options that allow the parklet to be used to communicate information about businesses nearby. The DDA has been looking at some kiosk signage and some other things. That conversation was delayed due to COVID. So creating parklets that have an opportunity to share some of that information, I think, is kind of a priority for us. Obviously, they also, by putting the seating space into the parking lane, It allows to keep the sidewalks free, and they're just a beautiful and lovely space to add to the downtown. And of course, you can see on the slides, hopefully there's some examples. They range from the very, very exotic and artistic to quite simple in their design. Go ahead, Michelle, please. So what are we doing for 2021? We, as Greg indicated, committee members from the DDA as well as folks from the city, some downtown business owners have gathered to kind of put this plan in place. So we are planning on 2 parklets on Maumee Street here in downtown. The group that talked about the best location included those stakeholders. And we decided to stick with Maumee Street for this year during this kind of developmental and kind of trial phase, because Maumee Street is wider than Main, as well as some of the other streets downtown. Where we're thinking at close to the 4 corners, there's the bump out that creates space away from the corner so that the parklets wouldn't interfere with the sight line of drivers, as well as create a distraction. We want to be sure it's safe. And the parklets would be on the opposite side from the flowing traffic, just for noise and avoiding the exhaust at the stop signs. We're currently also gathering feedback. A couple of committee members are meeting with downtown business owners as well as tenants in the downtown, both business tenants and residents in the downtown, gathering information and looking for their feedback and hopeful buy-in. And one of the concerns about the parklets is who takes care of it. How do we make sure that they stay clean? And we're hoping that there's green space, who takes care of the greenery. So we're actually also looking for some partnerships for people to maintain the 2 parklets on Maumee Street. So that's kind of where we are right now. Michelle, if you want to move forward, you can see the 2 locations for the parklets that we're hoping to pursue for this year. One just outside of Chalmers, leading up to that curb there at the corner there on, I guess that would be West Maumee, isn't that the break? And then on East Maumee in front of the Buzz Cafe and near to Mammoth. So those are the 2 locations that the committee worked on and is pursuing at this point. Go ahead, Michelle. And so we'll just continue to gather feedback. A subset of the larger committee is working on the design. As I mentioned, they really can get quite extensive. We want to be sure that our design, that they're easily movable. So when we get to the end of the season, we can take them away and be ready for snow removal, which sounds like it's going to be a problem in the next 24 hours. But we also want the DDA to confer that. We need to complete securing the funding. The Croswell has committed, as long as we can pursue these and get them built in the next 6 weeks or so, the Croswell's technical director is able to assist with the building of the parklets. So that's where we are. It's a big project, but because we really wanted to limit the scope of it this year, over the course of the summer and into the fall, we'll be gathering feedback, looking at the success or the challenges of the program, and seeing if there's an opportunity to expand parklets in other locations in the downtown, and how in some places these are very closely regulated, so that a business owner can actually purchase the opportunity to put a parklet in front of their business. I think we're a small enough footprint that we probably don't want to go quite down that path, but we'll use the next 8 months or so to figure out what people like and don't like about the parklets that we install, and then how we can improve on that process. Any questions? That was quick, it feels like.
Jerry, when you break them down at the end of the season, are they broken down and used for something else? Will we need to store them somewhere? What would that look like?
We can build them a couple of different ways. There will be some storage requirements of the parklets. We don't want to take them back down to like basic lumber. So there will be, some seating and parts that need to be stored, as well as just the wood itself. But because the design isn't finished, I can't say for sure, except to know that we will need to store some aspect of them.
Thank you.
I love these ideas.
Thank you. It's been fun
I
to
can
work
see
with.
it. And these are really used a lot. So.
Mhm.
But I was also in favor of this project we called it.
Hey,
Got hit
Brad.
with darts. What?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if it's everyone else, but if
Okay.
maybe.
Sure.
Thank-
So we got hit with so many darts about using parking spots, and this is absolutely on top of parking spots. We hear about parking spots constantly. What's the like? How do we communicate this? Like, how do we spin this? How do we make this the right PR opportunity that this is a good thing? Because I think it is. I think it's a fabulous thing. But I also thought the ice rink was a great risk to take, and I still stand behind it that was the right thing to do, and I'm not going to waver on that. But I don't want to take darts again on this matter. I will if I have to, but I think we can communicate it right. Jerry, do you have any ideas or any thoughts on that, or what are we doing differently on this that we didn't do on the ice rink?
So I'm not totally sure about how the ice rinks work or ice rink was communicated, but I think we can definitely lead with the results of the parking study that the city commission, and I think it was a partnership between the city commission and the DDA a couple of years ago, that indicated very clearly that unless, even on occasion when the Croswell is full, there is an event in the Steel Carriage House, and there is a large event at the Armory, there is plenty of parking in our downtown vicinity. So while we might sometimes, when I want to park in front of the location where I am going, and that single or two spots are not available, the study that was done, commissioned by a professional company, indicates that there is plenty of parking. So we think of this as a real positive addition to the downtown and encourage, especially in the summer months when these would really be most active and actually in place, the idea of developing the downtown as a walking space, I think is really fun. And putting that signage that says, hey, you're a 5-minute walk from these two restaurants and this retail store. You're a 7-minute walk from Comstock Park where you can see, the River Raisin, or, we can work on what that kind of signage and how we could include something like that.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerry, this is Gordon, and I too am in favor of the parklets. I think they're a great idea. I've got a couple of questions though, and you just mentioned the parking study, and I get that feedback often that the parking study indicated that we had all kinds of space. I do remember them saying, as we grow with downtown residents, we might start running out of space.
Mhm.
And the complaints that I get from business owners on both Maumee and Main Street are the fact that many of the apartment dwellers downtown take advantage of parking on the street rather than the city lots, like the Toledo Street lot and the Church Street lot. So I mean, I'm not sure what to do that, because I'm not convinced that we've got plenty of parking on those two streets. That could be a completely different issue. But also, we've got a lot of benches downtown. Is anybody using those benches? I mean, do people actually sit with their drink and use those? I mean, people pay a lot of money for those, so I'm just curious.
Yeah. I certainly, I don't think I'm in a position to take on the parking issue and whether or not there is adequate parking beyond what the study shows, and that's not really the intention of the parklet program. If we were to expand beyond these two, I think it would need to be taken into account as we look further down the road, and perhaps really refreshing not just my own, but maybe everybody's memory on what the results of that parking study would be helpful. I think in regards to, are the benches used? I think the benches are used. I think the difference between a bench and the design that we're looking to move forward with the parklets is that create more of a conversational space. So instead of sitting next to somebody, you're sitting facing somebody. You can, of course, sit next to them if that's your desire, but there's room that way. But also tables or at least spaces to set down a drink, set down a meal that might be in a to-go package would be included in what we're talking about.
Okay, I have one last quick question,
Mhm.
and not to be argumentative, but I did attend the Zoom meeting of the last DDA meeting. And your slides indicated or showed the word food trucks. Is that a DDA endorsement of us having food trucks downtown on occasion? Or, you know, because we've had that discussion and we don't know, you know, what the restaurants really think about that. So I'm just curious as to how that got into the presentation.
Right, no, that is strictly a Jerry Ryder endorsement for food trucks and not the representative of the entire DDA.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Gordon.
And if I could interject, I'm on one of the committees that's actually out talking to the stakeholders downtown. And the feedback that I have received from all the business I've talked to so far is literally that they don't think there is enough seating. They were very excited about this because they don't think there are enough benches or there is enough seating right now. And they really like the idea of that green space and having more seating options, especially with Dara. So that's the feedback on that I have received.
Thank you.
If it looks anything like what Jerry put next to the Croswell in that space, I think it'll be a fabulous asset to downtown, especially even maybe behind where we could do food trucks or something like that.
Jerry, I'll interject here real quick. Just traveling to Lake Michigan like I do in the summertime for long weekends. City of Grand Haven has a lot of these in their downtown, and people just love to be outside. I think, you know, as a city, as we go forward with the restrictions on inside capacity, we have to send an olive branch to those proprietors that are in downtown to get them so they can sell more product. So when it comes to the parking issue, you know, I'm in the minority, I'm sure here, but the study was done. I think Eric Gable in the DDA meeting before the study was done said that in his opinion that it was a signage issue more than a parking issue. And we had the study done and that was what the study said. So the city put up more signage. So I think folks need to understand that if you have a vibrant downtown, you can't park in front of the location where you want to go and go in sometime. You got to walk a block or two. That's just the way it is. And correct me if I'm wrong, but each parklet only takes up what, 2 spots, right? So there'd be 4 total or?
Yeah, again, the design isn't completely finished. I think actually the actual parklet is designed really to take up maybe like a space and a half, and then you just allow some bumper space just to keep a parked car and the bump out of the at the 4 corners safely distanced. So just again, an abundance of caution there. But yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like, so where these are going to be located in front of the 2 businesses. You know, obviously it's not on me. So if I wanted to bring a drink down to Sauce on the first Friday and plop down, I can do that, right? I don't have to buy a product from that business right in front of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the way it is, or?
Yep, that's correct. So in some communities, they have that where, in fact, like Chalmers, for example, would service the parklet as an extension of their restaurant or bar. In this case, it's really creating a public space. So you could be participating in the Dara in any way. You could get Frosty Boy and bring it to this as a place to sit down, to be where there's more activity. Anything is open.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Jerry, you brought up Chalmers, and if my memory serves me correct, those spots right now are 15-minute loading zones, and that was voted on and was requested, I believe, by the owners of Chalmers 2 years ago, and we approved that. Have Chalmers changed their mind on needing those 15-minute loading zone areas, or maybe not loading zone, 15-minute parking so that people can run in and get coffee? I can't remember exactly what the wording says.
I'm actually not sure about that. I know Chalmers is one location that is extremely in favor of the parklet, so we would just need to clarify with them. I wouldn't expect that we would ask for an extension of that 15-minute zone. And perhaps that's maybe more important in the colder months when people don't, you know, when the longer walk in the cold weather just to swing by and grab your popcorn is more of a thing.
Okay, yeah, because I just
will get
want them to if they need that zone, because that's what they told us, and now so all of a sudden they don't, even if we don't do these parklets, we need to take those signs down.
Yeah, I can get some clarification on that. I'd be happy to report back on that.
Okay. But I love them. I mean, yes, I've used them in Ann Arbor and other places, so I think they're great. And starting with 2 is a great idea. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll continue to work as a committee and keep the city commission informed of our progress. I do hope that we'll be near to a finished design in the next 7 days. So that'll be fun to share and really start the building process. So thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. The next item for discussion is our farmer's market, or the farmer's market space. The mayor and I and Matt Schwartzlander from the chamber have had some discussions about this. As you know, farmer's market has struggled in past years. It's our perception that's because it operates on a day where it has competition from at least 3 other farmers markets that are taking place at the exact same time. And we wanted to bring before you the idea of directing the farmers market as to what day and time would be acceptable to the city for it to continue in that space. I think our concern is that it's destined to failure if it continues to operate on Saturday mornings when Madison Township and Tecumseh and Pastor Strawcutter's farmers markets are all operating at the same time. That seems to have been the experience in the last couple of years. And so our idea, I think, and Mayor can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it would be better to indicate to them the days that we think would be acceptable. They can decide to do that or not. There may be some opportunities in the future if they choose to opt out through the merger of the chambers to bring other vendors in there on those alternative days that would be more likely to produce success. Farmers market can be a great thing for downtown, but it has to attract people to do that. And, we don't want it being set up for failure by stubbornly adhering to a day that has not been successful up to this point. Mayor, is that a fair summary?
Yes. And, it's just, we want to see it be successful. We want to support their endeavors, and they, and promote it and get people there. And that they've lost so many vendors between, especially Madison, but they also lost quite a few even to Tecumseh. And, we can have all the people there we want, but without the vendors there, it's not going to be a successful farmers market. And we really want it. We just really want to see it be successful. And we've got this great space, and we just want to see it utilized, and we want to see it thriving. And, they have a great system where they can even accept bridge cards, and they have this all set up, and it would be so great for so many of our residents to be able to get fresh produce and, and fruit. And we just need those vendors there. And we're just feeling that there's just too much competition on that day. We've looked at other areas that have done nighttime one, like some on like a Friday night or a Thursday night, or even, Ann Arbor does one on a Sunday. So there's a lot of different options out there. It's just, I feel the competition is, and even in my discussions with Greg and Matt, we feel the competition is just too intense on that exact time frame. And there's not that many vendors around.
Who's the leader of this? Why is this our discussion? I mean, they should be figuring out when they should market and coming to us, saying they switch to Thursday or whatever. Why are we leading this discussion?
Well, it's our space and they are coming to us wanting to operate on Saturdays again. And that's why we're having the discussion, because our inclination is, we have to permit it. It's in, it's a use of the pavilion on Toledo Street, and we issue a permit for that. And our inclination, frankly, is not to permit it for Saturday mornings, but we want to have that discussion with you all to make sure that you would be on the same page with that.
If that's when that organization wants to run their market, I'm not sure we want to get involved.
Commissioner Watson, the problem that I have heard is that the people who are running it have been intractable in terms of their insistence that this occur on a Saturday in competition with Reverend Strawcutter or Pastor Strawcutter and the Madison Farmers Market. And we get so few vendors coming up on Saturday morning because they just can't compete with the larger markets. And I think what I've heard in the discussions was the feeling that if we had it on a different date, a Thursday from 3 to 9 or whatever, we could attract some of those same vendors that are participating elsewhere on Saturday morning, and we could make it a more vibrant market. I get
that idea, and I agree with it. But us to say, hey, you're not going to have it on Saturday morning, all of a sudden there might not be a market. The market's got to figure out that they want it on Thursday evening, not us telling them they want it.
But I mean, I wasn't on the commission at the time, but my sense is the city spent quite a bit of money building that area and the pavilion. And shouldn't we have an expectation that it's going to have some kind of use that's going to be, bringing more people downtown? If we only have 3.
Okay, but if you don't have leadership to bring the market together on Thursday evening, then you've got nothing. So I'm not sure why an organization or a group of people that are trying to put on a farmer's market isn't trying to maximize their time, dollars, and efforts. But we can't tell them to maximize their time, dollars, and efforts by moving it to Thursday.
I agree, but again.
So my point is that if somebody else wants to come in and run one on Thursday night, I'll permit both Thursday and Saturday to run farmers markets. That doesn't bother me. But we need somebody to lead it. We're not leading it as a commission.
And I think, again, my impression is that the individual or individuals that are leading it aren't doing a great job of leading it. So that's my observation or what I've been told. I've been down there and talked to them. I mean, one day I went out to Strawcutter's operation, I went out to Madison, and I went to the Adrian Farmers Market. And, Madison ends up with 18 or 20 vendors on a Saturday morning, and Strawcutter, just reopened his, and I think he had 12, and Adrian gets 3. And that just, I guess if I was running it and managing it, I would be doing everything I possibly could to find a way to make it more successful. And again, what I'm hearing from the people who have been working on this, that the sense is that it's just not going to be successful on a Saturday morning. So let's come up with another option. Again, I understand trying to do it both Saturday and another day, but Saturday really seems to be a waste.
But this isn't ours to run, Gordon. This is not our market to run. And if you don't have somebody to lead it on Thursday, and you say you can't have it on Saturday, you don't have a market.
But it is our property and it is our investment. We ought to have something. We should have something to say about an event, a weekly event that's designed to draw people downtown. And people.
But we're not running it. We are not managing the market. So I'm off, man. This is.
Are we marketing out, looking for someone else to possibly take over running that? Is there another organization in our community that would maybe take over a Thursday night and try to build up a Thursday night as well as the Saturday crew that wants to maintain their 3?
Well, the opportunity, and Matt Schwartzlander is here on the meeting tonight, the opportunity that potentially is there is because the chamber, which is now merging with the Tecumseh Chamber, the chamber in Tecumseh runs their farmers market, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, and there might be the opportunity to reach out to that group to have another night, which also operates on Saturday mornings, to have another day here when they would operate. And the idea with respect to limiting access on Saturdays is to force the issue as it relates to that, because as Commissioner Gauss indicated, the current market master has been completely intransigent. In fact, believes that they own the pavilion, and that's just not true. And then B, it is the city's space, and there's a limited opportunity to use it. And if we're going to devote Saturdays to a use that is a failed use, that isn't the best use of our public space.
But do we have people lined up for Saturday that this organization is blocking it?
Not at this time, obviously, but it couldn't. It would. I mean, nothing might be a better option than what I understand has been the appearance of this market in that space in recent times. And I know there's some others on here who have greater experience with that than I do, and I'd invite their comments. But Matt, maybe you can speak to what you view the opportunity potentially here to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing and the benefits out of the partnership with the Tecumseh Chamber is the utilization of the expertises that each of us have as organizations. And one of the main expertise that the Tecumseh Chamber has is that they have a trained market manager that runs the Tecumseh Farmers Market. And so I think just in the opportunity to utilize that skill set, and whether it happens to be in partnership with the current group or we do something on our own, I think we're still having some feasibility discussions internally to see what we can do. Obviously, we've got a ton going on this year just with the transition, but in the short term and in the long term of what we can do to support it, because it is a critical vehicle to the entrepreneurship opportunities that we can offer. And just within the Tecumseh Chamber and the farmers market, they have seen just within the last 2 to 3 years, up to 5 businesses that have started within the farmers market and are now into bigger markets and doing a lot of great things and opening business fronts and everything. So that dynamic is something that we need to clearly look at. And in partnership with Mark and Mary and the Launch Runaway program, there's a lot of opportunities that come out of an opportunity like this to increase just some of the economic mobility within the community.
I would say also that it just, it's not a good idea to compete with yourself, right?
Right.
And so if we're going to try to focus on a particular day and build up a strong market, we don't really want a competing market on an alternate day.
I think what Commissioner Watson's saying is that what's government's place to tell you that? Government needs to understand the role. It's like that's like us building a splash pad on Parish Park and say hypothetically nobody uses it, $150,000. I mean, we did have the capital investment, but we can't dictate and deny or approve permits based on because we think that they're competing with them when we had no skin in the game really outside of the initial investment. If we're not managing the farmers market or anything, why are we telling them what they can and can't do? I mean, let them. I mean, if they want to compete, let them compete. If they have 3 vendors and Madison Township has 20, that's their prerogative. But when is the government's position to go tell private businesses that you should move to another day? Because in my opinion, I think that you could be more successful on day B instead of day A. So initially I was okay, I'm like, all right, well, but then I'm like, think myself, just the businessman in myself comes out, and sometimes the government needs to stay out of the way and let the market dictate if they're gonna be profitable or not. That's just my opinion on the situation. But you know, Brad, I didn't know where he stood on this, but he just sold me with his first comments, and I guess that's where I'm at.
Well, I would say in response to that, it's a little bit like the food truck discussion, right? I mean, you're allowing private business to use public property to operate their business. And I think when that's true, then the city does have a role in deciding, you know, what those days and times are when that's a reasonable thing to do.
I agree if it conflicts with something else. But right now, we're just saying, hey, this is a bad day for you because you have low participation. If it was a program that we are running, and if it's something that we are coordinating, yeah, we want it to be successful. Our role in this is that we've got the pavilion. Unless somebody tells me we've got a different role where we need to be measuring success or failure, you know, how is it any different than signing a use permit for, you know, the dirt bags or the lookouts to use Heritage Park? If they have 2 teams show up, that's their day at Heritage Park, and we have no other role there. If they have 40 teams show up, then they've picked the right day. Our role is to make sure those fields are prepared properly and the permit is issued.
Okay, so what I am hearing is that the group that organizes and meets on Saturday aren't real interested in moving to a different day, or haven't even thought about it, discussed it. I'm not sure. But being a city-owned and hopefully a city-promoted event, the Chamber of Commerce might be willing to step in and organize a different farmers market on a different day. So if the people who want to be on Saturday want to continue organizing their 3 booths, they are welcome to do so. But from what I'm hearing you say, Matt, is that there might be an opportunity to use the expertise from the Tecumseh Market chair, I'm not exactly sure what she's called, he or she's called, and help develop a different day and time for the Adrian Market. The people, as I said, can stay on Saturday if they choose to, but we would offer an alternative and then be able to market both days and times. Did I say that correctly?
Well, I mean, I think our thought was that we would like to provide them every opportunity, every encouragement to succeed. And, you know, in our estimation, that would be a different day and time. But
Greg, they can fill out their permit for Thursdays right now, and they pick to do it Saturday mornings.
That's true. I don't know that they've been paying for their permit in the past, so there's that too, but.
Who does that fall on?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what the history of, you know, I haven't had much involvement with the farmers market, but they should certainly be paying the same permit fee that everybody else does, and the fee to use the pavilion is $300. And if they haven't been paying that fee and getting to use it for free, then maybe that alone, you know, if we're talking about, all right, well, you can run it on the same basis that anybody else does, charging the appropriate fee going forward may, you know, as Commissioner Watson suggests, cause the market to take care of the issue itself, the market being broadly the, you know.
And I can guarantee when the commission approved to have that, I think they spent up, it was way before my time even, upwards of a couple $100,000. I guarantee it, the city commission at the time did not want to be in the farmers market business as a city. So they build the structure, that quality of life structure, and then hopefully folks would use it. I mean, I guarantee they didn't want to get in the day-to-day or weekly functions on filling the market or not filling the market or deciding which day is best. I mean, so.
But I don't think we are. What we're doing is, if we use the Chamber of Commerce to manage the market, then it's not the city, that's the chamber managing. Correct?
Matt, can you share, like, would there be a plan moving forward this year, or would we be doing research or study this year to plan for next year? What does it look like utilizing the Tecumseh Farmers Market person for us right now?
Right.
Like moving
So-
forward this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So the discussions that we've had internally so far are looking at doing maybe once a month farmers market during the week. We're going to have some conversations with the current vendors that are the Steadfast on Saturday mornings to see what other time during the week would be easy for them, beneficial, that they could have their products and everything. And then to work with what else is happening within the city. So whether it's a first Friday in conjunction with that event or whatever works. So I think there's definitely opportunities for looking. But I think the Saturday, when you've got a successful Tecumseh Farmers Market and a successful Madison Farmers Market, it's tough to be able to compete and get the vendors needed to draw people to the downtown. And I think it's more than it's representative of the community. And when you see a farmer's market, you go and you expect to see community involvement, great vendors that represent the community. And when that isn't there, it tends to maybe not put a good standing on the downtown area. So I think when you really look at it, making it something that's in partnership with the downtown businesses, with the overall community, making sure that we do have buy-in from the vendors that can be there. There's a lot of opportunity that wraps into it, and making sure that we bring everybody to the table is a big piece of that.
So is it something that, why it may not be what brings people to our community, is it going to hurt us to keep it going this year and letting them practice capitalism and do their thing and see how it goes? And then we start doing them on Friday nights once a month, and they're like, wait, this is working way better. We don't want to do it on Saturday. And, gradually shifting everyone to that? Or is it where we're just, I don't think telling them no either is a positive
Right. And
affirmation from the city, where we may get them to stay on a different night if we show them that there's things happening. If we tell them no, we may lose them completely.
Right. And I don't ever want to tell anybody no. I don't want to, I guess, put the kibosh on it, but I want to make sure that we, as the chamber, are part of the conversation and doing what we can to support our downtown businesses, and through bringing in the vendors needed to create a sustainable farmers market on a different day. That's, I think, where we can be supportive. And like I said, looking at it, doing a monthly this year, and then to see what we can do in next year and in the future, based on our transition and capabilities.
And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but the person that's been in charge actually reached out to you originally before she even reached out to me about it, correct?
I reached out to her just because I hadn't
Oh.
seen anything on it or heard anything. So I just wanted to kind of know what they were doing, what their plans were.
Can I jump in here a second and say that a couple months ago, when Madison said that they were going to shut down, I contacted Madison, and then come to find out they weren't very well run, and they in fact aren't shutting down. But what it did was it led me to conversation with the people in Adrian who had been running that market. And no matter what direction I tried to take the conversation, they were dead set on staying there on Saturdays, regardless, even though they said they weren't happy with the location. They said they weren't happy with the location because it's too much of a destination spot. People don't drive by there and see it. And they complained about city cars being parked in the spots where they wanted to set up. And they complained about everything under the sun, yet they didn't want to change anything. So to me, if we find some people who have knowledge at running farmers markets, because that's a must, and they are interested in coming downtown and working with us on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whenever, we should be there to support them. I personally think that a market would do better on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday than on Saturday when we have more people downtown anyway. But I think that if another group wants to get involved, let's be there to support them. The Chamber of Commerce obviously wants to be there to support them, but let the people do their thing on Saturday and, you know, fail as they will. I'm sorry. You know, I tried to be really helpful with them and I wanted to try to be a link to try to bring them and the DDA together. And they didn't want to hear any of it, basically. So I would love to see us have a vibrant market. I don't think Saturday is a must, but I'm very happy that the chamber is on board with this, because I had conversations with the people in Tecumseh. I had conversations with other people who provide produce to markets, and there was a lot of positive impact or response that I got. It was the negative response was the people who were running the market on Saturday. So that's sort of what I know.
I love a good farmer's market, and I think Mary should sell pierogies and pies at a farmer's market. I agree with Brad. I don't think we have the right to step in and tell them no. If it's a free day, that's taxpayer money that we might get. I don't think we have the right to say no, but I don't think having one, I think the natural progression will be, if you have a successful one on a different night, that would phase itself out, because it's economically not worth it for the people that are there. That's my.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Kelly, and hold that thought on the Polish food. But I do think if we encourage and or allow the chamber to do this, we let the Saturday group go and just let them know we are promoting, and the chamber is going to promote the Thursday night one. Just so you know, you're still able to be here. You're going to pay the fees, and here they are for the year. Make sure, and we can even let them know, here's your back fees if that's an issue. But just let them know that we're going to promote only Thursday night from 5 to 8 or whatever it is. That would be my suggestion, that we go with the chamber. They set a new date and time. Let the Saturday people be and do their own thing if they wish. We're just not going to promote it anymore.
Or make sure you collect the fees, and maybe that would correct the problem itself.
There you go.
Another issue.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if they have some overhead, maybe they'll find out they're not as profitable as they think they are.
That's right.
Okay, well, I think I understand the commission's direction on that, and we'll proceed accordingly. They can get their permit if they want to, assuming one's available for the time slot, and we'll proceed along the lines of your discussion. We do have a lot to get to, unfortunately. When I set the pre-meeting time, I didn't know all the things we needed to talk about tonight, so try to move along. Appreciate it, Matt, for you coming to the meeting tonight. Hopefully the Bone Pool operating agreement is real quick here. It appears that this has been done on an annual basis going back to 2015, when the Y first came to us and said they needed additional funds. The basic agreement with the Y, which incorporates more recreation activities than just the pool, dates back to 2013 and is still in effect. But the annual agreement to provide additional funding to operate the pool has been done on an annual basis every year. It looks like going back to 2015. And so we need to renew that again this year. That's on your action agenda tonight. And I think the reason why it's been on every year is because we haven't been sure from year to year whether it would be in a condition to open. I have talked to Matt, and he does feel like the pool physically is in a condition to open. There are issues with the liner, but not so major that we can't operate it this year. Every year is a crapshoot as it relates to the boiler, but as far as we know, it's good for this year. We don't have a pool operator yet. Jason's working on finding a contractor hopefully to do that. But I just wanted to alert you to that on your agenda, have an opportunity for discussion if you feel there needs to be one about whether or not we're going to operate this year. But my recommendation would be to go ahead and operate this year unless anybody feels differently. Okay. Aaron's-
And just say, I believe that we need Bone Pool now more than ever. A place for people to go, kids to go, families to go that are outside, and if we're still having issues with COVID. And this is something we need to look at for down the line. Either we're going to fix it or we're not. And that's a major capital thing, whatever it's called, campaign that we need to either decide we're going to do it or we're not going to. So.
I agree with Commissioner Roberts, who I didn't know was a cat person.
Yes. My other, I love the idea of a contractor for the pool operator for the summer because we don't have one right now. But my thought when going through the budget and adding a position to parks, because we're adding the splash pad, which is also going to be water safety related. Should we, can we, when we post that position, the pool operator and the splash pad operations be a part of that position? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, as I sit here, but it's worth exploring whether that could be the same position for sure.
My understanding is the pool operator has spent, depending on the day, every single day at Bone Pool, at least an hour and sometimes up to 4 hours, depending on what's going on. So it does take up a chunk of their time. And it's, so yeah, just because our pool is old and needs the extra help. But I have no idea how much time would be required for the splash pad. Well, I don't know that we know that yet at this point.
No, I did ask Jason his thoughts on that. He wasn't. He was going to reach out to the vendor. He wasn't able to do that prior to the meeting, but you know, it requires daily cleaning for sure, and how long that cleaning takes is the only question. But it will be a daily commitment once we have a splash pad up and running.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's nothing further on the pool, Mike Slosarski is here. We have some further discussion needed as it relates to the east side extension of the Kiwanis Trail, which you authorized use of oil trust money for last year, which construction is still pending. We signed a contract for it last year, but the construction season ended before much could be done. And now as planning has progressed, we've identified issues that are causing cost overruns. And Matt may be here now too, but Mike probably knows more about it than anybody, and he can explain what those issues are and what the associated cost of those items are. Mike, if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening. It's good seeing everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, very good. So basically we have two issues that I see right now that is causing a little bit of a potential, for not potential, but it would be a cost impact. And it's primarily centered with the State Street to Division Street section of the proposed extension, or the contracted extension, I should say. Basically what we have is when the project started, there were no engineering drawings. And so this was a design build project. We had put numbers together based on a 2,400 feet of path with a pavement section of 3 inches of asphalt, 6 inches of stone, grading, and a number of other appurtenances to that. With that said, what we had at the time was a legal description of the easement that is dedicated to the extension. Upon being granted and awarded the contract, we proceeded with the engineering design, which was included as part of the contract. And the first step in that was obtaining the topographic survey for the project. And what we found was a couple different things. One was the section from Main Street to Winter Street, from Winter Street to Dennis to State were fairly straightforward from the standpoint of grading and elevations and alignment of the path itself. When you get into the portion between State and Division Street, a couple different things that enter into the engineering complexity of it. The first was once we had the surveyors go out and actually place stakes where that demarcated the easement out in the field, you could see that if you can picture it, it's easiest to picture it standing at Division Street and looking west. There's a very significant hill there, and there are rail signal cases and utilities that are right adjacent to the easement. And more importantly, this hill that is right there, it is in such a manner that it presents challenges from an ADA standpoint, American Disabilities Act standpoint. You have to, in order to have that satisfy the ADA requirements, the slopes have to be within a certain percentage, can't go too much, and it has to have landings every 30 feet and that sort of thing. So as I proceeded with the design, what I found was there was more excavation work that would need to happen through that hill the way the easement lays out. In addition, there's additional tree removal that needs to happen because it happens to go right through some trees in that area. But in order to get the slopes to operate correctly and meet the requirements, it will require significantly cutting into that hill, which in and of itself, the excavation work, it's just a matter of doing the work. But the problem is with a 20-foot easement, the challenge is you don't have a lot of room to slope it back to the existing ground. So basically you end up with a trench through the hill. So in that case, the easiest way to handle that and the most cost-effective way to handle that is the placement of concrete blocks to basically carve a path through the hill. So that in and of itself, it almost becomes, that section between State Division almost becomes a project in and of itself, at least the 250 feet of it. And then so that is one thing. As I look at the cost on the project, the original, the contract itself is $240,000, not to exceed. The tabulations for each section that we priced out ends up coming to $217,727. So basically there's a little bit of a buffer, contingency buffer already built into the contract. When I tabulated and did the estimate on what it would take to place the blocks, to do the extra excavation and all the other things that are associated with that portion, basically the extra, in addition to the 240,000, would be 25,685. So it eats up the contingency that's left in the contract, and then there would need to be some more. with on top of that. And then the second thing was something that I hadn't anticipated, obviously. As we started the project, one of the things that I really made an attempt to do was to reach out to the folks at Adrian Blissfield Railroad to let them know what's going on, get their input. It's important that as part of the design phase of the project that we understand where their utilities are, and something like that was really important to be partnered up with them because the rail utilities obviously are aged, and a lot of them they're not in anybody's. Let's put it this way: when you call Miss Dig, they're not going to come out and mark the rail utilities. So I worked with the Adrian Blissfield Railroad, their folks, and I feel that I was able to establish rapport with them to identify their utilities. As we got closer to starting construction, we started probably, we were able to start probably 3 weeks ago with some additional tree clearing. And we've moved forward from there. In subsequent conversation with them after they've seen the drawings that I had put together, I was notified that I would have to pull a standard permit to entry in order to perform construction. And I was
Mike, I hate to interrupt you, but Greg, we've run out of time and we still have to have public comment. Is there another time that we can, discuss this with Mike? To have this discussion? Because I know it's pretty important, and I know that's why we were putting it on tonight, to make sure and have this discussion and, be aware of what was happening.
Right. Well, I mean, Mike, I guess maybe you can tell us at what point are you going to need a decision on a change order in order to keep your project moving for this year?
Well, right at this point, it does not impact the sections between Main and Winter and Denison State. It's really an impact upon the state and division. The biggest issue that we have there is the concrete blocks have significant lead time. So the time that I'm able to get the blocks will be delayed by the time that a decision is made to move forward on it, unless some other source of funding is determined somehow, if in the event that the city commission would opt not to fund that portion of it.
Okay.
So if we moved this to the first meeting in May, we're going to be behind the ball. Is that what you're saying? Or are we okay?
Let's put it this way. We'll make it work. However, just as long as people understand that if there is a delay on the decision, we'll just have to delay the order on the blocks. As long as people are understanding of that. I specifically marked up the contract to state that, there might be some unforeseen circumstances that might push the finish date back. And I would consider this one of those.
Because I think it's important to have this discussion. We just don't have time right now, and
Sure.
To discuss this further. And if everyone else agrees, to have this discussion, at the next pre-meeting, and maybe there is a resolution on there and we discuss it at the pre-meeting. I'm not sure. I'm trying to move things along, but on the same time, we're out of time. So that's why I was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, at least you got a sense of what the issues are, and we'll have a chance to think about that as we move toward our next meeting. And Mike, hopefully you can be back first Monday in May, and we can pick up where we left off.
I'm at your disposal. Anything I can do to help.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. No problem.
At this time, it is now time for public comment. Just please, for the record, please state your name and address.
Ken 110 South Locust. I guess I wanted to talk about the farmer's market. So basically, the city of Adrian had a quote, a brainchild or someone with a college degree who put this whole plan together. And it looks like we got our butts kicked by little old Madison Township, who does not have a $120,000 economic development director. My opinion on the farmers market is that the city had a small group of people, and not this commission, but a past commission, was persuaded by that small group of people to do this project. And oh, it looks good, and oh, we did it. But then now the city of Adrian is holding the bag where we should have been the leader on the project. And I think that goes for a lot of other projects. Right now, you're talking about parklets. Who's going to pay for the parklets? I didn't hear anything about when and if a special assessment district is going to be created to pay for the parklets. I think they had a movie, and it was called Field of Dreams, and if you build it, they will come. I mean, right now, you have this whole streetlight thing in the downtown. You had this small group that persuaded someone to put this on, and now we're like $9.5 million into debt, and it's for streetlights for a small group that has nothing to do with the whole community, and we do not have a special assessment district there. I mean, you got the pickleball court. You had a small group that came in, put pickleball courts in. But what is that group going to help or do to maintain that property? I just think that the city needs to reassess how they make these decisions. The farmers market is, it's an eyesore to the city. The other thing to share with the farmers market was there was no communication between the vendors, and my understanding is that when the person running it gave the vendors the rate, they all packed ship and they went over to Madison Township. So I think that there's a lot of things that are just happening on a whim, and oh, it sounds good. We get this buy-in from a small group. It'd almost be like if you guys spend more than $500,000, that anything over $500,000 would need to go to the public for a vote. You talked about the pool. I think Commissioner Roberts mentioned, if you're going to put a bond together on the pool, put a bond together on the pool and be done with it. You keep talking about it every year and nothing gets done. I just think you need to reevaluate what you're doing with our tax dollars, because I think money is getting spent because of the needs and
Your time is
pressure.
up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, may I get a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, if I may, real quick,
Go
I
ahead.
think it needs to be clarified. We are not $9.5 million in debt related to streetlights. That is not accurate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Watson.
May I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned, and we will begin the regular meeting at 7:15, so that if you need to use the restroom, you may do so. Okay, I see that we have all of our commissioners here, so I now call to order the Adrian City Commission meeting for April 19th, 2021. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Robin.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
Mr. Castleberry,
Present.
all commission members present.
At this time, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2021 special meeting. May I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes, Roberts.
Support Gauss.
I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Minutes approved by unanimous vote.
May I get a motion to pay the vouchers as presented?
Move to pay the vouchers as presented. Watson.
Second, Castleberry.
I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Vouchers approved by unanimous vote.
Just a second here. I will now take a motion to amend the agenda. Sorry about that.
I'll make the motion, Mayor. I'd like the motion to strike R21-054 and add second public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 budget and general appropriation acts. Notice of public hearing.
Support. Watson.
I have a motion to amend the agenda to strike resolution R21-054 and to add the second public hearing on May 3rd, 2021. I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Watson. Roll call, please.
Hold on, sorry. Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
No.
motion to amend the agenda to strike R21-054 and to add a second public hearing on May 3rd, 2021 is approved by a 6 yes, 1 no vote.
At this time, we have special order 1. It's a public hearing to hear and consider comments on the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 budget. At this time, I will now open the hearing for comments.
Hello, I'm Joaquin Ramos. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Of course, I'm Joaquin Ramos, 22 South Winter, you kind of know me by this point. But first, I want to underline my support for the splash pad. And I hope that you're indeed going to go with the one that was selected by the A3 coalition, since they're the ones that are going to all around it. And that's going to impact very directly. And I think it's wonderful that some of you have bothered to bring it up. And as long as it actually happens, you do deserve credit, Gauss and Heath. Other than that, especially now that we have a little extra time to talk about the budget, I think you might want to consider a couple of other ideas as well. So you've been talking about blight and about how to make it so that it doesn't harm the poorest people. Well, there's a few different things that can be done, that especially considering how much money you're currently sitting on. One that would be pretty easy to do would be to consider interest-free small loans from the city to its citizens. So say a neighborhood has some blight issues and they're having a lot of trouble paying for some of the stuff. So maybe you loan them $300 to do a dumpster temporarily, or to be able to hire a couple of workers because they're not in best physical health themselves, as well as other things, especially considering that before COVID, more than half of people could not handle a surprise one-time expense of $400. So if you're offering these free loans, these interest-free loans, that's going to help a lot of people, especially in our city. Also, I think you should take a little bit more time to think of transportation. I know at least a couple of you have publicly acknowledged it while running. And well, I see what's currently going on with it. And I understand it's hard, but some things need to be done to help the people. And that includes giving them transportation they can rely on and not have to wait 2 hours to get to a doctor's appointment or to get to work or to a grocery store, especially since we're currently under a system with food deserts. And I'm sure this is a little bit late because you don't want to overburden your staff, but something to start thinking about ahead of time, well, we have a whole year to think about it, is some housing options. There is some, and I'm sure you've heard this, but I'll make it as easy as I can. There's something called the low income housing tax credit. It's pretty old by this point, been around for numerous of my lifetimes, and it can cover anywhere from 40 to 90% of the construction of low income housing. And this is so reliable that many banks will offer loans in exchange for the credit. So with this and the funding you have already, you could easily make housing for the poor and homeless and file housing first policies, which are the only way to deal with homelessness effectively.
Sorry, your time
That's
is
fine.
up.
That's about
Mr.
all I had to
Ramos,
say
your time is
besides the
up.
Christmas lights. So thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Ken, 110 South Locust. One thing that I think was omitted from the budget was a special assessment district for the DDA specific to the streetlights. As of the information that I have available to me, we've got the $9.5 million that was spent. If the city was transparent and had a schedule of values and told us exactly how much those streetlights were, we would know what that number was. Again, with the special assessment district for the DDA, the DDA bylaws, they specifically state that a special assessment district can be created for the purchase of streetlights. And I'm still questioning why Matt hasn't brought this up and why the taxpayers are paying for the streetlights. I mean, it's not just like we're putting up streetlights. We're putting up sign banners, which have nothing to do with energy conservation. We're adding outlets, we're adding flagpoles, and these are things that are specific to DDA properties. They're improvements on those DDA properties. And there should be some type of a cost through a special assessment district assessed to those properties with the streetlights. Again, I would ask the commission not to approve this budget unless there is a special assessment district for the DDA properties specific to streetlights. Thank you.
Um, William Garcia, 704 Comstock Street. I promise I'm only gonna talk for 3 minutes this time, don't worry. So all jokes aside, I think that when we look at what a budget is, it is clear that a budget serves as a moral document. When we want to look at what we value and what we care about as a community, it is ultimately determined on how we spend our money and how we allocate our resources. And as has been mentioned, there has been a lot of good in our community over the past several years. We have seen wonderful things going on downtown. We have seen wonderful events like First Fridays and Arlicious and film festivals and ice rinks and farmers markets. And these are all great things that build culture. Excellent. But after the party's over, after the events are through, people have to go home. And as has been mentioned, unfortunately for thousands of people in our community, home is not safe and home is not affordable. There are ways we can change this. As has been alluded to, low-income housing tax credits do provide a path forward for the city to get into affordable housing developments, but there are other ways we can address this need. We can look at, for example, block funding as available at a state and local level. We can look at tenant-based rental assistance programs. We can look at so many things that are available to us that we haven't even pursued. There's Choice Neighborhoods programs through HUD. There is the Home Investment Partnerships program through HUD. We could talk for a long time about all the opportunities that are available to us. But what has been clear in the past is that we have known that there have been problems with septic backup, with blight, with pests, with unfair and discriminatory rental practices within our community that have harmed so many families and so many people. And that this is an issue that thousands of people are facing. 24% of our community is in poverty. And when we have looked into how we solved this in the past, the situation has been, well, we don't have the resources. So with this budget, we have an opportunity to turn the page and actually take a meaningful step forward in addressing the issues of housing inequity and homelessness that have blighted our community for decades. So I would implore the commission to strongly consider pursuing affordable housing opportunities in this upcoming budget as a way to rectify this injustice that we have been facing for so long. Again, thank you so much. You folks have a wonderful night. I yield the rest of my time.
Hearing no more comments, I now call this public hearing closed. Moving on to resolutions. R21-055 is from Parks and Engineering Services. It is a resolution to award a bid for spring bulk trash collection services. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Gauss.
Or help.
Are there any public comments?
Ken, 110 South Locust. I believe I had sent all the commissioners a breakdown on the cost of a 40-yard dumpster with 4 tons of material. And I guess moving forward, it may be a little bit late to do something with this year, but instead of having once a year trash where people from the township and other communities come and dump stuff on our properties because they know someone, I would like to see the city put 2 or 3 40-yard dumpsters at the yard waste center and operate the same hours and maybe like for 5 or 6 months a year and just let residents come and drop things off and put them into that container And like I said, I know you can't do anything this year, but maybe you could do something next year. According to my numbers, you could potentially, I think you're going to spend $112,000. You'd offer residents, instead of a one-time, they'd be able to go at their convenience. And it would probably save the city at a minimum $35,000. And that's not even taking into account the trash from neighboring communities who just dump in our community. Thank you for listening.
Hearing no more public comment, do I have any commissioner comments?
Mayor, if I may. Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Go ahead.
You
Go ahead, Mary. Okay. So I did read Mr. Tokar's email to its extent, and it made me think. And you know, I think there's some validity to that idea, but I'm not in support of it. Just simply because I'm not convinced that there would be more controls over that dump. I think that there would be more reckless dumping, maybe even businesses relying on that in some capacity to use that as their commercial dumpster when they should be disposing of their waste appropriately. But it was a good thought for stopping the city. But with that in mind, I think that this is a very expensive way to go about this. I think this is the proper way to go about this at this time. And as Commissioner Helt has said for the last 4 years, you know, this should all be part of our general waste contract, all rolled into it.
Commissioner Watson, I'll let you know that, again, you cut out at the end there, at least on my end, is any having the same issue with your.
Thank you.
Can I say one thing, and that is, this is a good idea. The way we handle it is good because people can drag things from their basement, their attic, their house to the curb and have them taken care of. If you don't have a truck or somebody with the means of getting your trash or whatever you want to say to that dumpster, you're out of luck. And that's why so many people take part in this whole program, is because it's easy. So where we may save some money, it's not serving the people at all, or it's not serving all the people.
Mary, are you gonna go or?
Well, I wasn't sure if everyone was. So Commissioner Strayer stole my thunder. That was essentially going to be my comment, is that although Mr. Tokars, I actually do like your idea of having a bulk trash area at the yard waste. Maybe if we did it just once a month. They do monitor, at least every time I go in, I have to show my little sticker and or my license, and they monitor who gets to go in there and who doesn't. So that I like that idea. And that might cut down on the bulk trash amount, but I don't have a truck and I don't have access to a truck. So I've actually started collecting a pile of things that won't fit in my vehicles that I can drag to the curb. So I do think it's still something that's necessary. I would like to make sure that when we look at scheduling a date, and I said this a couple of weeks ago or last week, we try to look at if other communities are doing a bulk trash and that we schedule ours after theirs. So that hopefully that will cut down on some of the illegal dumping within the city.
And Commissioner Roberts, just to that point, Madison Township just did theirs 2 weeks ago because my family lives in Madison Township, so I'm well aware of that. So, you know, we will be after that, obviously, now. So at least we do have that township that we definitely will be after, but I think that's a great point.
And I'll kind of speak briefly on this. You know, this is where like Commissioner Strayer said, I mean, it's about services and what makes it easier for your citizens. And there's a young gal that was messaging me on Facebook inquiring about this about the last 2 or 3 weeks. I pretty much told her that we weren't really talking about it, and the mayor actually brought it to the commission a couple meetings ago. And this is one of those things where citizens want this service. They want to drag it to the road. They don't want to take it anywhere else. They want to take it to the road. We have to worry about our citizens that don't have transportation and the means to get their, stuff they want to discard. But in the future, with our trash contract coming up in the next 1.5 years, 2 years, this is something we can put into the bid when we send it out. And then so we don't get any surprise cost of tonnage. It's already worked into the cost. So I support this. The people want it. And I think it's a good way to get to start our blight remediation program to get some of this stuff cleaned up. So.
Hearing no more commissioner comments, I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Resolution approved by unanimous vote.
Resolution R21-056 is from Utilities. It is a resolution to waive the bid process and purchase a Ditch Witch JT10 Jet Track Mechanical Drilling System. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Roberts.
Support Strayer.
Are there any public comments?
Ken, 110 South Locust. A couple questions in regards to the Ditch Witch would be, we had a public meeting about expenditures for the upcoming year, and I would hope that Mr. Sadler could comment on why this wasn't included. It's almost like it was an afterthought. The other request is that you add a friendly amendment or modify this resolution to include that the city prioritizes houses that have lead-based water lines that have to run during the cold months of the year. On a personal note, at my house, I have to, during the cold months of the year, because of on the city side, the way the water line was installed, I have to run like a pencil drip coming down out of my water faucet for, 2, sometimes 3 months out of the year, because the water line will freeze on the city's end. And I think that I was told at one time that there's like 110 properties in the city. So I would hope that the city and someone on the commission would amend this to include that Will prioritizes houses with lead water lines and houses that have water that have to run continuously, so they can prevent the waste of water going down the drain. Thank you.
Are there any commissioner comments? I have a resolution from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R21-057 is from the city clerk. It is a resolution to approve a renewal of the commercial marijuana facilities permit application number RM21-005 for a dual purpose permit for Highwire Farms. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Help.
Support, Gauss.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-058 is from the city clerk. It is a resolution to approve a renewal of the commercial marijuana facilities permit application number RM 21-006 for dual purpose permits for objective growth. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Watson.
support Strayer,
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-059 is from the city clerk. It is a resolution to approve a renewal of the commercial marijuana facilities permit application number RM 21-003 for a dual purpose permit for Loom Cannabis Company. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Roberts.
support Strayer,
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-060 is from the city clerk. It is a resolution to approve a renewal of the commercial marijuana facilities permit application number RM 21-009 for dual purpose permits for MEM Gardens. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Help.
Support, Watson.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Watson. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
yes,
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R 21-061 is from Parks and Engineering Services. It is a resolution to approve an operating agreement for Bone Pool with the YMCA of Greater Toledo. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Watson.
Support Castleberry.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R21-062 is from Parks and Engineering Services. It is a resolution to approve a change order for the City Chambers project. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Watson.
Support.
Strayer.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Watson with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R21-063 is from the City Commission. It is a motion to add second public hearing for the fiscal year 2021-22 Budget and General Appropriations Act on May 3rd, 2021. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, Gauss.
Support. Help.
Is there any public comment? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
No.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Motion to add resolution R1063 to add a second public hearing on May 3rd. Was that the right motion? Was to
Yes.
add the public hearing, was approved by a 6 yes, 1 no vote.
In your package, you have various reports. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on those reports? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to public comment time. Just to reiterate, there is a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and address.
Ken Tokar, 110 South Locust. I wanted to expand upon why I equate the $9.5 million bond with streetlights, and it comes down to pork barrel politics. What is pork barrel politics? Pork barrel politics is the legislature's practice of slipping funding for a local project into a budget. The project may have nothing to do with the bill and may benefit only the legislature's home district. Before a bill gets to a vote, pork barreling has often greatly inflated the costs associated with the addition of various legislatures' pet projects. In modern politics, pork barreling and earmarking have become virtually synonymous. To be fair, one politician's pork barrel politics is another constituent's service. The key takeaways from pork barrel politics: Funding for a local project can be inserted into a larger budget as a line item, the pork barrel politics. CAGW, the accounting firm, defines a pork barrel project as a line item in appropriations bill that designates tax dollars for a specific purpose while circumventing established budgetary procedures. I'm of the opinion that this is what took place with the streetlights, because it would have been far-fetched to gone out for a bond to replace 0.44 square feet of caulking in the water treatment plant. There's just such small items on there. So you had to have a group that had to be pushing for this. And I believe that that group was the DDA, and everyone else is left over. Earlier today, I talked about if you guys are going to do something with Bone Pool, please do something with Bone Pool. But if you add to the Bone Pool project something like putting leather couches outside of all the DDA businesses, that's another example of what pork belly politics would be. And I'd ask that you stay away from this practice. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, I'm going to move on. Are there any commissioner comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Commissioner Castleberry.
The month of April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and it's also Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which are both things that have been near and dear to the work I've done for like the last 20 years. So I think it's important to acknowledge what the commission is doing with the splash pad, making sure that there's paths to the park, because with all of the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences that happen in our communities, it's the benevolent childhood experiences that help counteract those. So it's the splash pad, it's those fun things that help counteract those. I also want to talk about our public schools. I think that they are doing a phenomenal job. I had a teacher call me this weekend to make sure they did the right thing by reporting something that they were unsure of. So we have a lot of wonderful, caring teachers in Adrian Public Schools. And I want to acknowledge them for all the work that they've done with the kids in our community. And I would like to acknowledge Parkside Family Counseling and Omega Family Counseling. They pay out of their own pockets often to help the kids in our community. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing. So if you get a chance, hug a kid, tell them they're doing a great job. It's a pandemic and it's rough for them right now. And the rough things that happen to them, this is making it worse. So if you get a chance, give a kid a hug, tell them they're doing a great job.
I would just like to invite everyone to the Human Relations Commission meeting next Tuesday, April 27th. The pre-meeting is at 5:30. And I know that I've told a few of you individually, but I just want to let everyone know that there is going to be an amazing presentation from a group from Chicago that has just really transformed the homeless population and how and their work with them has been amazing. And they are going to actually be coming and presenting to the Human Relations Commission and fielding questions and giving ideas and just really directing and guiding Adrian in, in what we can do and to help that population and how we can assist. So I think it'll be very informative and very educational. So that's 5:30. They're going to be presenting at the pre-meeting at 5:30 on Tuesday, April 27th.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Watson.
And hopefully this it gets through enough. I'm going to make it brief since I'm having audio issues, and I apologize. But I think some facts need to be cleared up. Our Johnson Controls product is not a bonded product or a bonded program. It is a finance program, but it is not bonded, and it's affording us the opportunity to do many large projects that otherwise we would not be able to. $9.5 million is not being bonded for street lamps. $9.5 million is not being bonded for anything. Bonding is a very specific definition related to city operations that the voters would enter us into, not on a whim by a commission. So I think that's very important to differentiate between activities that are going on with our Johnson Control energy efficiency products or studies and projects, and what a bonded product or a bonded project would look like for the city of Adrian. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, real quick.
Commissioner Halt, go ahead.
I wasn't going to comment tonight about some things, but I'm gonna comment, and I'll make this brief. You know, being a commissioner for 5.5 years, you know, I've some of the decisions that myself and my colleagues have made, I'm immune to having tough skin. The splash pad issue, I think it really got me this weekend with seeing some of the comments on social media. When you have a particular part of town that we represent, and the 7 of us collectively, we represent the whole city. When we are putting a capital investment on a side of town that constantly has the reputation of saying that the city doesn't care about our needs and our quality of life. When you got people running for office that are naysayers, and again, being a city commissioner or the mayor, most of the times you're gonna be darned if you do, darned if you don't. With that being said, and again, these comments weren't prepared, I'm just going extemporaneous here. It really hurt, and nothing really hurts me, but when you see the kind of investment that we are going to put on the east side of town, which is a lot of rental properties that need a lot of TLC, whether it be getting the trail on the east side of town, connected it to the Boys and Girls Club, to have access to bring the sides of town together. Some of the comments were, my kids will never go there, it's not safe. Well, what are we supposed to do? Just let it rot away? Or are we supposed to make significant investment and improve the quality of life of those neighborhoods? Again, I just want to make those comments and say that, you know, not a lot of things bother me, but that really did. And you would think that some of the decisions that I made that are way more impactful, but the capital investments that we continue to make on the east side, whether it be blight remediation, just on both sides of town, right? Crime in our city is an issue. We understand that. We as a collective body are going to address that, you know, going forward. But to have critiques on putting an awesome project smack dab in a neighborhood that needs it, this really got to me. I just wanted to make those comments. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Halt. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I read many of those comments on several social media platforms. Personally, I was disappointed, disenchanted, and I believe very strongly, and most of you know, that we do have an area of the city that's been long neglected, and I'm happy that we're going to be able to do something for the residents on the east side of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. May I get a motion to adjourn?
So move. Help.
Support Roberts.
I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Roberts. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.